Pinocchio is the story of a wooden puppet who wanted to be free of the strings that he felt held him back. Of course, those same strings actually brought him to life and enabled him to move and dance. Humans are instinctively resistant to restrictions and constraints and oversight because we value and prize the need to be free. Which freedoms are most important to you? Which freedoms matter most? We'll explore the virtue of freedom in this episode of Gaining Virtue. Here's how I would like to define freedom. You value liberty and can be counted on to give others the latitude to do what they want to do. You believe that people achieve the most when they are unimpeded, unobstructed, and unregulated. Because you hate limitations, you have a permissive nature and give people as much room as they need. With that definition of freedom under our belt, let's explore some of the things we can do to increase the amount of freedom in our lives and in the lives of those we care about. Here are the 6 aspects of freedom that I think are important to consider. First, we need to exercise our freedom of thought. Freedom of thought is available to anyone, anytime, even if you're chained to the floor of a dank and dark dungeon. You can choose to let your mind loose and explore the world, or you can choose to remain in bondage. The choice is always up to you. You are free to make your own choices. Second, we need to know our rights. Regardless of where you live in the world, you have certain rights that can't be taken away by others. You can surrender them if you choose, but that choice is always up to you. Do you know your rights, including those that don't require government approval? Third, we need to accept the responsibilities that are always associated with freedoms. With every right comes a responsibility. Like a coin, you can't pick up one side without picking up the other. Furthermore, the greater the right, the greater the responsibility. Some rights may demand a responsibility that you can't afford to pay by yourself. Fourth, we need to constantly evaluate consequences. Each of us are given the freedom to make choices that deliver consequences that impact our lives. If we can't or won't make those decisions on our own, then others will help us make them, which may or may not be in our best interests. Fifth, we need to cherish freedom. Throughout the history of humanity, freedom has been a precious and relatively rare commodity. Even today, 60% of the people in the world are not free or are partly free. Do you cherish those you have, or do you take them for granted? Do we try to make sure those who follow us also have those freedoms? Finally, we need to learn how to grant personal freedoms. The better we understand human temperament, the more we realize that an individual's preferences affect just about everything they do in life, including the personal freedoms they want to enjoy as they make their way through life. These are not political freedoms that are granted by governments, but are personal freedoms that are granted from an organization to its members or from one individual to another. Do you know which freedoms each temperament craves? Are you allowing others in your life to act freely? As a virtue, freedom forms the foundations of our individuality, as well as the foundation of our society. Without freedom, we would be miserable captives and slaves, without hope, without progress, without a future. So let's figure out how to seek out freedom and then help others find it too.